June 22nd, 2009. AEG Live Headquarters, Los Angeles. A production meeting is in session. The subject is Michael Jackson and the This Is It tour. The first London show is scheduled for July 13th, 3 weeks away. But there is a problem. Michael Jackson is not ready. He has been missing rehearsals. When he does show up, he appears disoriented, weak, unable to perform at the level required. The production team is worried. The financial team is worried. And in this meeting, according to later testimony, someone says it out loud. If he doesn't perform, we all go down. The statement is not recorded in official minutes, but multiple people who were present remember it. And it reveals something crucial. That 72 hours before Michael Jackson died, the people responsible for the tour knew he was in crisis. And their priority was not his health, it was the show. 3 days later, Michael Jackson is dead. And the question becomes unavoidable. Did AEG leave? No. Did they see the warning signs? And if they did, why did they do nothing? The This Is It tour was announced in March 2009. Michael Jackson, after years away from the stage, agreed to perform 50 shows at the O2 Arena in London. The announcement was met with massive demand. Tickets sold out within hours. Additional dates were added. The tour was projected to generate hundreds of millions of dollars. For Michael Jackson, it was a comeback, a chance to reclaim his legacy, to prove he was still the greatest entertainer in the world. For AEG Live, the concert promotion company, it was a financial windfall. They had invested heavily, and they expected a return. But almost immediately there were problems. Rehearsals began in April, and from the start, Jackson struggled. He missed sessions, he arrived late. He appeared exhausted. The production team, led by director Kenny Ortega, tried to accommodate. They adjusted the schedule. They reduced the demands, but the issues persisted. And by June, it was clear that Jackson was not improving. He was deteriorating. Emails between AEG executives, later obtained during a wrongful death lawsuit, reveal growing concern. "He is not in good shape," one email reads. "We need to get him help." But help, in the form of appropriate medical intervention, never came. Instead, AEG doubled down. They pressured Jackson, they pressured the production team, and they leaned on Dr. Conrad Murray, Jackson's personal physician, to keep him functional. The June 22nd meeting was not the first time concerns were raised, but it was, according to testimony, one of the most explicit acknowledgments of the stakes. The meeting included Randy Phillips, CEO of AEG Live, Paul Gongaware, co-CEO of AEG Live Concerts, Kenny Ortega, and others involved in the production. The topic was Michael Jackson's ability to perform. Ortega had sent an email days earlier on June 14th, expressing alarm. He described Jackson as lost, cold, and afraid. He said Jackson needed professional psychological and medical help. The email was direct, it was urgent, and it was largely ignored. At the June 22nd meeting, according to later depositions, the focus was not on Jackson's health. It was on the tour, on the financial commitments, on the contracts, on the sponsors, on the fact that canceling or postponing the tour would be a disaster. For everyone. The phrase, "we all go down," encapsulates the mindset. It was not about Michael Jackson the person. It was about Michael Jackson the product, the asset, the revenue stream. And the fear was not that he would die. The fear was that he would not perform, that the investment would be lost, that careers would be damaged, that the company would take a financial hit. The meeting took place 72 hours before Jackson's death. On June 25, 2009, Michael Jackson died in his rented mansion in Holmby Hills. The cause was acute propofol intoxication. Dr. Conrad Murray was later convicted of involuntary manslaughter for administering the drug in a non-hospital setting without proper equipment or monitoring. But Murray was not the only person responsible. The wrongful death lawsuit filed by the Jackson family against AEG Live argued that AEG had hired Murray, that they had pressured him to keep Jackson working, and that they had ignored clear signs that Jackson was in medical distress. The case went to trial in 2013, and during the trial, evidence emerged about the June 22nd meeting, and about other meetings, and about emails. and about a pattern of behavior that suggested AEG knew Jackson was unwell and chose to prioritize the tour over his health. One email sent by AEG executive Paul Gongaware on June 20th, just 2 days before the meeting and 5 days before Jackson's death, reads, "We want to remind him that it is AEG, not MJ, who is paying Murray's salary." The implication is clear. Murray worked for AEG, and his job was to keep Jackson functional, not to provide appropriate medical care, but to ensure that the tour went forward. Another email sent by Randy Phillips on June 20th, after a heated exchange with Kenny Ortega, states, "Kenny, it is critical that neither you, me, or anyone around this show become amateur psychiatrists or physicians." I had a lengthy conversation with Dr. Murray, who I am gaining immense respect for as I get to deal with him more. He said that Michael is not only physically equipped to perform and that discouraging him will hasten his decline instead of stopping it. Dr. Murray also reiterated that he is mentally able to and was speaking to me from the house, where he had spent the morning with MJ. This doctor is extremely successful and does not need this gig, so he is totally unbiased and ethical. The email is remarkable for several reasons. First, it dismisses Kenny Ortega's concerns. Ortega, who had been working with Jackson for weeks and who had observed his decline, was being told to stay out of medical matters. Second, it places absolute trust in Dr. Conrad Murray, a trust that, in hindsight, was catastrophically misplaced. Murray was not totally unbiased and ethical. He was being paid $150,000 a month by AEG to ensure Jackson could perform. He was administering propofol, a dangerous anesthetic, in a home setting. He was not providing appropriate care. He was enabling a fatal dependency. And third, the email reveals that AEG's priority was the show, not Jackson's health, not his safety. The show. The June 22nd meeting followed this email exchange by 2 days. And according to testimony, the tone of the meeting reflected the same priorities. The production had to go forward. Jackson had to perform. And anyone expressing doubt was seen as a problem. Kenny Ortega, who had raised alarms, was reportedly sidelined. His concerns were dismissed, and the focus shifted to Dr. Murray, to the belief that Murray could fix whatever was wrong with Jackson, that he could get him ready, that he could make it work. But Dr. Murray could not fix Michael Jackson, because Michael Jackson's problems were not fixable with medication. He was exhausted, he was malnourished, he was suffering from chronic insomnia, he was dependent on prescription drugs, and he was being asked to prepare for a 50-show tour that would have been grueling for someone in perfect health. For someone in Jackson's condition, it was impossible, and everyone involved should have known that. The production team saw it, Kenny Ortega saw it, the dancers saw it, the musicians saw it, and according to emails, AEG executives saw it. But they chose to believe that it could be managed, that Murray could handle it, that Jackson would pull through. Because the alternative was unthinkable. The financial stakes were enormous. AEG had invested approximately $30 million in the tour. They had contracted with the O2 Arena. They had sold tickets. They had sponsors. They had merchandise deals. Canceling or postponing the tour would have resulted in massive losses. Lawsuits, damaged reputation. And so the pressure was immense. Pressure on Jackson. Pressure on the production team. And pressure on Murray to make it work by any means necessary. The phrase "we all go down" captures this pressure. It suggests that the success of the tour was tied to the survival of the company, or at least to the careers of the people involved, and it suggests that failure was not an option. But what it does not acknowledge is that "we all go down" was already happening, because the path they were on, the path of pushing Jackson beyond his limits, of relying on Murray to keep him functional, of ignoring warning signs, was leading directly to catastrophe. And 72 hours after that meeting, it arrived. On June 25th, Dr. Conrad Murray administered propofol to Michael Jackson at approximately 10:40 a.m. Jackson fell asleep. Murray left the room to make phone calls. When he returned, Jackson was not breathing. Murray attempted CPR, but he did not call 911 immediately. The call was not made until 12:21 p.m. By the time paramedics arrived, Jackson was already dead, or very close to it. He was taken to UCLA Medical Center, and at 2:26 p.m., he was pronounced dead. The news spread immediately. Within hours, the world knew. Michael Jackson, the king of pop, was dead at 50 years old. The reaction was shock, grief, disbelief. Millions mourned. Vigils were held. Tributes poured in, and questions began. What happened? How did this happen? Who was responsible? The investigation focused on Dr. Conrad Murray, and in 2011 he was convicted of involuntary manslaughter. He served 2 years in prison, but the Jackson family believed that Murray was not the only one responsible. They filed a wrongful death lawsuit against AEG Live, and the case went to trial in 2013. The trial lasted 5 months. It was exhaustive. Witnesses included family members, production staff, medical experts, and AEG executives. Emails were presented, depositions were read, and the details of the final months of Michael Jackson's life were laid bare. The jury heard about the missed rehearsals, the weight loss, the confusion, the fear. They heard about Kenny Ortega's concerns, about the June 14th email, about the June 22nd meeting, and about the pressure, the financial pressure, the professional pressure, the pressure that prioritized the tour over the man. In the end, the jury ruled in favor of AEG. They found that while AEG had hired Dr. Murray, they were not liable for his actions. The reasoning was that Murray was an independent contractor, that he was a licensed physician, and that AEG could not have foreseen that he would administer propofol in a home setting. The verdict was controversial. Many believed that AEG should have been held accountable, that they had created the conditions that led to Jackson's death, that they had ignored warning signs, that they had prioritized profit over safety. But under the law, the jury concluded, AEG was not legally responsible. The verdict did not, however, erase the evidence. The emails remain, the testimony remains, and the timeline remains. 72 hours before Michael Jackson died, AEG executives held a meeting. And at that meeting, according to witnesses, the focus was not on saving Michael Jackson. It was on saving the tour, on avoiding financial disaster, on making sure the show went on. And that priority, that decision to push forward, despite clear warning signs, contributed to an environment in which Michael Jackson's health was secondary, where his needs were subordinated to the demands of the production, where the phrase, "we all go down," meant more than Michael Jackson might die. It meant our investment might fail. The question is whether things could have been different. If AEG had canceled the tour in June, Michael Jackson might still be alive. If they had insisted on a full medical evaluation, if they had postponed the shows, if they had prioritized his health over their investment. But they did not. They chose to move forward. They chose to trust Dr. Murray. They chose to believe that Jackson would be ready. And that choice, while not legally culpable according to the jury, was morally significant because it revealed a system in which the artist is secondary to the production, in which the human being is less important than the revenue, in which "we all go down" is a statement about money, not about life. Michael Jackson's death was ruled a homicide. Dr. Conrad Murray was found guilty. But the systems that enabled Murray, the financial pressures, the production demands, the culture that treats artists as products, those systems were never held accountable. The June 22nd meeting is a snapshot of those systems, a moment where the priorities were made explicit, where the choice was made, and where, 72 hours later, the consequences became irreversible. The legacy of the This Is It tour is complicated. The rehearsal footage was turned into a documentary. It was released in October 2009. It grossed over $260 million. It showed Michael Jackson at his best, focused, talented, dedicated, but it did not show the full story. It did not show the missed rehearsals, the collapsed moments, the emails, the meetings, the warnings. It showed a sanitized version, a version designed to honor Jackson and to generate revenue. And it succeeded. But it also obscured the truth, that Michael Jackson was not ready, that he was struggling, and that the people around him knew it. The phrase, "we all go down," has become symbolic. It represents the moment when financial interest overtook human concern, when the tour became more important than the person, when the show, quite literally, had to go on, even if it killed the star. And in Michael Jackson's case, it did. Not directly, not intentionally, But the environment created by that mindset, the pressure, the refusal to cancel, the reliance on a doctor who is administering dangerous drugs, all of it contributed to a situation where Michael Jackson died 3 days after a meeting where executives worried about going down financially. And the tragedy is that they did go down, not financially. The documentary made money, the estate recovered, but morally they went down because they were part of a system that valued profit over life. And that system killed Michael Jackson. If you made it this far, you understand something important, that behind every celebrity death is a system, a set of decisions, a series of priorities. And in Michael Jackson's case, those priorities were clear. The tour mattered more than the man, the investment mattered more than his health, and 72 hours before he died, that priority was stated explicitly. If he doesn't perform, we all go down. The statement was about money, but it became a prophecy, because when Michael Jackson did not perform, when he died instead, everyone did go down. Not in the way they feared, but in a way that mattered more. They went down morally, they went down ethically, and they went down in history as the people who could have stopped it and did not. Drop a comment, share your thoughts, and if this made you see the This Is It story differently, pass it along, because stories like this matter. They remind us that profit is not worth a life, that no show is worth a death, and that when someone says we all go down, the question is, what are we willing to sacrifice to avoid it? In Michael Jackson's case, the answer was his life, and that is unforgivable,